Almost everyone I've asked has some vaguely fond memories of Sharkboy and Lavagirl, but it's also often the case they saw one time 11 years ago and then never again. And once you realize that, you have to ask yourself, why? Leading up to the movie's release in 2005, everyone was excited. I mean, come on, they were gonna shoot lava at your face. That's rad! When I first saw it in theaters, I was 8 years old, and ever since then it held a really special place in my heart. For a good few years, it was my default response when someone would ask what my favorite movie was, only eventually be replaced by the next great cinematic masterpiece of our generation, Rush Hour 3.
Maybe we should put on a dirty movie. Lee! Only $9.95.
On its surface, it looked like some by-the-numbers, over-the-top children's movie with vapid characters whose only qualities were the superficial attributes their names described, and that's because it was. But underneath that, it was a genuinely inspiring story that touched on deep themes, like the pains of growing up, staying true to yourself, and even the sorrows of loss. It connected with me really deeply because at the time, it felt like a story a kid like me would actually come up with. There was one problem though, and that it's a story an 8-year-old kid would actually come up with. I rewatched it recently and the movie just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And we consider I'm no longer 8 years old and just straight vibing off the fact that Sharkboy's hair looks like my two idols, Goku and Chester Bennington from One Step Closer. It's hard to see past that. Suffice to say, the plot isn't what you would call airtight. Maybe more along the lines of aerated, like a bag of Lay's potato chips that has almost nothing in it and also happens to cost $50 million. That's right, this movie cost $50 million. And if that doesn't sound like a lot to you, then you probably haven't seen it in a while. It's in the ballpark of other movies made around the same time, but not when you consider the fact that the director, Robert Rodriguez, needed closer to $30 million for the vastly superior Spy Kids 1 and 2, and that most of the film is shot on green screen with only 2 or 3 real locations.
We're the only 3 things in there that were kind of like real.
You could probably guess the rest of the $20 million went into animating the almost entirely 3D landscape, but when you actually see it, it's hard to imagine how. The movie starts out telling us it's based off the stories and dreams of Racer Max. Now, if you're like me, you might be wondering who this Racer dude is and why he's got such a sick fucking name. Well, turns out Racer Max is just the e-boy name for Robert Rodriguez's son, Racer Rodriguez. Some other names from the Rodriguez family include Rogue Rodriguez, Rebel Rodriguez, and Rocket Rodriguez. Racer was not only involved in all aspects of the movie's production, he also came up with a lot of the story. Turns out he and I have almost the exact same birthday, so when I say this movie was made by an 8-year-old, I fucking meant it. On top of all that, Racer actually stars in the movie as young Sharkboy working at his dad's ocean shark lab. That is until one of the big spinner boys comes in and just sinks the whole place, leading to him and his dad going adrift at sea. But hold on, how does this even happen? The dad and him end up on 2 different life rafts, which is possible, I guess, but he wakes up from being unconscious, so presumably somebody put him in the life raft. So did his dad make the decision to use 2 different life rafts? What, did he need more room for his cooler with a Bud Light? Sharkboy doesn't even seem surprised this happened, reacting with all the composed disappointment of a young boy realizing that for the 3rd year in a row, his dad's not gonna make it to his birthday party. Anyway, Sharkboy gets rescued by some sharks, and after living with them for what looks like at most 43 minutes, starts developing shark body parts, which 1, probably f***ed up a lot of people about how evolution actually works, and 2, even if it was how it worked, would probably take some amount of time. But shit, here he looks like he just woke up one day, surprised to discover he's now a human shark creature thing that's no longer welcome back into society. Also, Max, our main protagonist and narrator of the movie, says this:
he grew fins. All sorts of fins.
Which not only sounds extremely concerning, but leaves me utterly baffled at what this could possibly be implying.
Does Sharkboy have fins on his fins?
Speaking of Max, here he is living every child's dream of fishing alone on a pier, while also eating a Big Kahuna burger for some reason. So Max and Taylor Lautner, oh yeah, Taylor Lautner's in this movie, finally meet, and Max, like the good boy that he is,
Max is a good boy,
instantly takes him home. Isn't that just the most awkward thing when you're over your buddy's place and his parents are hashing out a messy divorce?
You have to get a job!
And apparently they were too busy with that to notice Max housing a weird shark person in their shower aquarium, which by the way also doesn't make sense because he's on dry land for the rest of the movie and it's just never a problem.
He had been traveling the universe in search of his father.
Why the fuck would he be searching the universe for his dad he last saw in a life raft floating down the Atlantic? Anyway, I guess they couldn't figure out how to have Max meet Lavagirl in a natural way, so she just appears in his bathroom. Max describes her as having purple flames of hair and skin of molten lava rock, which is generous. And by the way, that right there pretty much concludes all the information we get for these 2 main characters for the rest of the movie. In the next scene, it's revealed this whole backstory was actually just Max giving a classroom presentation about what he did last summer. And also where we get introduced to George Lopez in one of his many characters in the movie.
Mr. Electricidad, exactly. Not Mr. Electric, not Mr. Electricity, that.
Okay, dude. I grew up watching Nick at Night, and George Lopez always seemed like such a cool dad.
We've been waiting for you, my child.
But in this movie, he's just the same character, but also dumber and way more of a dick.
Someone is picking that up, and it's not gonna be me.
We also meet Linus at this point, who's the main villain of the movie, and whose entire character traits are bullying Max and being hilarious. Thankfully, Mr. E's here to take care of the situation with all the highly refined conflict resolution abilities of a 4th grade teacher.
This is a new year. Do you think you can be friends?
No.
Then it's been decided. You'll be the best of friends.
This obviously doesn't work, and instead ends up with Max getting chased down for his extremely precious and irreplaceable dream journal. Max then tries to escape by running up this contraption, which makes less than 0 sense because not only does it A, not go anywhere, but B, is a structure designed to be easily climbed by children. It'd be like running to a police station to escape the It just wouldn't work out. But to this movie's credit, we get a good nutshot at the end, so I'll give the scene a pass. In the next scene, Max wakes up in his very well-lit room to discover what seems to be velociraptor footprints singed into his carpet. I have absolutely no clue what that's supposed to be about since Lavagirl just has normal feet. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe this shot was done earlier in the filming process when they intended to be a little more ambitious about Lavagirl's costume design. That could explain the strange footprints and also the random burn splotches on the carpet as little lava bits falling off her. Or maybe they just fucked up.
Taking Shark.
A bit later, Linus finally gets to class, and after some prodding from Mr. E, finally gives Max his journal back, which sets off one of the most iconic sequences in film history.
He ruined my dream journal! I did not! Mr. Electric, send him to the principal's office and have him expelled!
There's really nothing more to say about that. But then old Georgie comes in to add that little bit of extra spice.
You're in my class, not the other way around. I know everything, and you know nothing.
George, what does that have to do with the situation? But forget all that, there's no more time for thinking, because Sharkboy and Lavagirl have exploded through the side of the wall with immense urgency. They came all this way to get Max and take him back with them to save Planet Drool and Earth. Or something.
If you want to stop the darkness.
It's never really explained how Planet Earth is in danger or from what, which you think would be pretty important for, I don't know, the character's main motivations, the audience's investment in the story, but shut the f*** up, put your glasses on, and get in the spaceship, because we're going on a ride. Speaking of glasses, let's just talk about 3D for a sec. When I was a kid, 3D was all the rage, and as a stupid child, I definitely knew I loved it more than I knew it was a bad gimmick. Even worse than a bad gimmick, it was actually detrimental to the movie watching experience, which now consisted of 50% less colors that weren't blue razzmatazz and dog wiener red. It was really more of an insult to the viewer than anything else. And to drive that point home in this movie, of the rare few times you actually notice any 3D, at least 4 are the same exact gag of someone spitting directly into your face. But here we are, Planet Drool, or as I like to call it, Planet Green Screen, because that's really where we are, and that's where we're gonna stay for pretty much the rest of the movie. It's honestly fine most of the time, but in certain moments it just looks terrible. Overall, it just feels like they could have spent more time on it to prevent amateur mistakes from happening, like having half your character's faces lit up by the green screen, or forgetting to remove the weird translucent outline on the head of one of your 3 main characters. And really, same goes for the CGI landscape all around them. Most of the time it looks really cool, but it's just not executed properly. The continuity between landscapes also seems pretty taken for granted. In the scene just before this one, the ship was landing on the ground in front of a mountain range, but all of a sudden they're on some slime bridge in the sky. All of these admittedly minor things really add up and take a toll on how immersed you can feel in this world. And I truly think that if they spent just a little more time thinking these things through, the movie would benefit immensely. Anyway, after dropping by to give these kids a quick spinal rearrangement, the gang takes a ride and arrives at easily my favorite character in the movie, Mr. Electric.
Well, well, well.
Mr. Electric, in case you didn't get it, is supposed to be Max's dream version of his teacher, which makes sense because his teacher was a weird asshole, and this character is a deranged weird asshole.
Not for reals.
George Lopez's performance with this character is just so bizarre. It's like they gave him literally no direction apart from children's movie bad guys, so he went with something in between Mr. Freeze and Mr. Bean. It also feels like they didn't plan this character very well, so he always has oddly timed pauses and editing choices, making his already unsettling mannerisms feel even more out of place. We're then also introduced to this scary Jerry, who's supposed to be the spooky evil mastermind behind this whole thing, and is also very obviously Linus.
Bring me the boy before he discovers his true powers and tears my new kingdom apart.
Anyway, the gang gets tossed into a dream graveyard and decide that Max needs to dream their way out of there. But before Sharkboy can make this movie really interesting,
So how about I put him to sleep right now?
He'll be out like a light.
they find Tobor, a soup can-headed junkyard bionicle Max dreamt up that is voiced by none other than, you guessed it, George Lopez.
You just saved me. I'm free.
Robo Lopez then takes him to the land of milk and cookies. Or, I'm sorry,
The land of milk and cookies.
milk?
Milk?
He needs some
Milk?
Because apparently this is the only place Max can get some goddamn shut-eye. And with the help of Taylor Lautner's impressive theatrical abilities, Max is able to dream up a radical shark bite. But before he can dream up anything else, Mr. Eccentric comes in just in time to make a perfectly strange and confusing scene.
This may come as a shock to you. Feel the power!
As usual, George leaves me asking, what the f*** are you talking about? They then try to get away on the sweet shark jet ski, but fudge!
Fudge.
It's filled with fudge. And that's because apparently
I forgot to dream of gas.
he forgot to dream of gas? What kind of rule is that? What the f*** else does he have to not forget to dream up? His driver's license? But as a result of this fudge up, we get this neat fight scene where I actually have to give praise to Taylor Lautner for his frankly impressive gymnastic and stick spinning abilities. He clearly gave this performance his all. And of course, the scene wouldn't be complete without some completely strange and incoherent George Lopez takes. So the gang ends up on a banana boat floating down the stream of consciousness because, you know, you gotta leave in a couple jokes for the parents. Max needs something to draw with, so he uses Lavagirl's finger, and I'm guessing that's supposed to be like a piss joke. It's drawing in the snow and then it like sputters out at the end. That's definitely a piss joke. And what Max draws with Lavagirl's powerful flow is some time-stopping necklace MacGuffin that, spoiler alert, only exists to derail the soggy papier-mâché held together with loogies and duct tape plot just long enough to reach the 1 hour and 30 mark, which it just barely does. But it's not long before our favorite guy, Mr. Electric, is here to say some weird shit and keep this plot rolling.
You can almost feel the electricity in the air.
So they get captured and we have our classic villain reveal scene where the evil person tells us about their evil plans, real evil like. Linus, now Minus, has stolen Max's dream journal and is now using it to ruin Planet Drool because that's what people with faux hawks and eyeliner do. His motives are never really explored past him just being kind of a dick, so I'm forced to assume it has something to do with his parents trying to buy his love with all those stylish accessories he always has on. Minus then decides the best plan of action is to take the kids with the superpowers and put them in a normal metal cage. They obviously immediately break out, and in case anyone was wondering why Taylor Lautner didn't come back for the sequel, it might have something to do with this shot.
What the hell is even that?
And finally, after all they went through, they managed to get back the dream journal from right in front of Minus's stupid face, and at last, Max can use its awesome powers to turn Planet Drool back to the way— oh wait, no, he just gives Lavagirl a motorcycle. Guess he didn't forget to dream up the gas at that time. Lavagirl then decides to try and read the journal herself, which ends exactly how you'd expect, and she gets a little upset about it.
Why did you make me out of lava? Why, Max?
You know, that's a reasonable question. I've been meaning to have a similar conversation with my dad about why he gave me so much ass hair. But yeah, making a person out of lava is by all accounts a dick move, but like, dude, how do you keep forgetting you're made out of lava? Also, I love how even though the book incinerates into thin air, you could still see the actor's eyes following it down as it drops to the floor, and on top of that, they didn't even bother editing out the sound of it smacking the floor.
Lavagirl, no!
There's not even a good reason for why not. They just couldn't be fucked. Look, I'll make the edit right now.
Lavagirl, no!
And just to remind you, this movie cost $50 million! Whew. Anyway, the gang decides the only course of action now is to go back to the ice castle and get the ice thingy that stops time. You remember, right? The thing I told you didn't matter at all to the plot and was a colossal waste of time? So they get to the castle and Sharkboy tries climbing up this ice hill to get it, but he doesn't make it, so he gives Max's glove to try and get it himself. But hey, why is his glove back on his hand? Continuity's not that important anyway. After Max drops a crystal and freezes Lavagirl, they are then taken to meet the Ice Princess, where it's revealed the real crystal was around her neck, and that only the Ice Princess can even use this thing.
My crystal heart cannot help you. Only I have the power to use it.
But it's okay, because then they have these kids participate in this weird marriage ceremony thing,
I do.
where the Ice King then says, the crystal will now work.
The crystal will now work.
The crystal will now work. And don't forget that, because that's going to be real important in just a sec. Also very important to mention here that the Ice Princess's dad is voiced by none other than George Lopez,
Off with you then.
which now makes him like a third of the cast. But anyway, stick with me here, because this one's a doozy. Literally a minute later in the next scene, they try to use the crystal, and then this happens.
3, 2, 1. What happened? It didn't work. I was trying to tell you. Only the Ice Princess can use it.
What? So why did the Ice King just say it would work? And if literally none of this was ever going to matter to the plot, why do we spend over 20 minutes of the movie on this? This movie doesn't make any goddamn sense. Anyway, the plot doesn't have any time for this shit, and neither do we. We got a movie to finish. So then after seeing some dead fish, Sharkboy enters a prepubescent rage and just has to swim up to Mr. Electric, so old Georgie gets a chance to say some batshit nonsense for far longer than I'd like.
What?
And then he throws some eels at him, which apparently can swim faster than the person that was raised by sharks, has all kinds of fins, and literal super strength. Okay, fine, they're super dream eels or whatever. But then Lavagirl says this.
He can hold his breath, but not forever.
What happened to his gills and shit? What exactly can this guy do in the water? He was raised in the water by sharks, and despite this has fantastic acrobatic staff-based abilities, but no ability to outswim eels, and then once he's in the water will drown almost immediately? This character makes literally no sense. Okay, whatever. So then Lavagirl has to go into the water to rescue him, and apparently if you're made out of lava, that's not too healthy, and Max just has to sit there and cry about how all his friends are dead. But anyway, I guess Sharkboy finally gets some much needed air in his gills because he wakes up and now has to save Lavagirl from dying by throwing her into a volcano, which, now that I think about it, might actually be the most reasonable thing in this movie. Wow, they must have given Lavagirl some prescription strength shit because she's limp as a rag doll. Wait. So then Lavagirl comes out of the volcano and does this lava thing into the air, which stops the thing they didn't want to happen from happening.
Darkness.
And for some reason also gives Max what can only be described as an awakening of sorts, and thus he becomes the Daydreamer. So you see, the secret to saving Planet Drool wasn't for Max to go to sleep and dream, it wasn't getting back that dumb journal, and it certainly wasn't using that stupid ice crystal to stop time. It was so simple. All they needed to do the whole time was to take Lavagirl and throw her into a volcano. In the meantime, the writers discover what you're forced to do when you make a water-based character completely inept in the water. Max goes to face Minus, and with the help of some light brain damage, convinces him to just shake on it. And in the end, it all works out. Everything can go back to the way it was. Things like traveling to Earth and back.
You will be able to travel to Earth and back again as you wish.
Which they did at the beginning of the movie. And Sharkboy can keep looking for his father.
You can search for your father.
Which he couldn't do because, there was a reason. And Lavagirl, she gets,
You can rule Earth's lava world.
What the f did this kid just say? Earth has a lava world? Why does he sound so unconvincing? Like he's just making shit up so they have a reason not to kick his ass.
You can rule Earth's lava world.
But not so fast, because our main man, George Lopez, isn't quite done yet. Tell him what's up, Georgie.
I am the danger of dreaming. For every person who dreams up the electric light bulb, there's the one who dreams up the atom bomb.
George! What the f? So he fucks off back to Earth to go to Hiroshima, I guess. Meanwhile, plot twist, Max finds out he's been dreaming the whole thing back on Earth. Mr. Electric then finds his way to Max's school, and even while not in character, George Lopez finds a way to make this movie uncomfortable.
You dream me as a big brown bad guy.
You know, George, there's a long list of things this movie needed. References to nuclear warfare and systemic racism were not it. Some other stuff happens with Max's parents getting marriage counseling from sentient love tornadoes.
I love you.
You're my best friend.
But we really don't have time for that. All you need to know is the menace that is Mr. Electric is finally defeated. Just before the movie ends, we get a little Where Are They Now about Sharkboy and Lavagirl, where we find out that Sharkboy is still looking for his asshole dad, despite the fact that he got his exact coordinates from Max's journal earlier.
He's over the hydrothermal vents, mid-Atlantic ridge, 42 degrees west by 14 north.
Buddy, I don't think your dad wants to be found, you feel me?
And Lavagirl's also busy.
It's where Lavagirl lives her dream, as queen of Earth's volcanoes.
Which, again, is where exactly? Indonesia? This movie is one hell of a ride, though I'd really prefer if you just got on, shut up, and asked no further questions. It's just so all over the place, it just seems like it wasn't very well thought out. And from what I can tell, that's pretty much what happened. For characters like Mr. Electric, George Lopez and Robert Rodriguez were just sort of making shit up as they went along.
Mr. Electric's the best, man. I mean, Robert and I just keep made him bigger and bigger every day, you know. Do this and do that and do this, and we're like, all right.
And all of the karate stuff you see in this movie wasn't even planned until Rodriguez learned that Lautner could do that and then had him choreograph all his own fights for the movie. What can Sharkboy even do once you take that out? Squirt some water? Drown? Put all that together with the fact Rodriguez was working on 2 movies simultaneously, and the picture gets pretty clear about what happened. They went for something ambitious and sort of got lost in the sauce. But despite all that, I want to make one thing very clear. I fucking love this movie. And even though I've seen it 40 times in the last 30 days, I'd happily watch it again today. It just has such a distinct aesthetic and charming authenticity that makes it really hard to dislike. And after watching some of the behind the scenes footage, you really start to get why. For Rodriguez, the goal wasn't to create the most coherent, structurally bulletproof family movie of 2005. It was to let his son live out every kid's dream of turning their wild imaginations into reality. And that's really all this movie is. A father supporting his son's dreams. So to recap, what lessons did this movie leave us with? Believe in yourself. Dream a better dream. And most importantly, don't give a $50 million production budget to an 8-year-old. Also, just a reminder that Sharkboy and Lavagirl boning in the sequel is completely canon.
Ouch.
Ice up on my wrist. I make these bitches lit. My foreign drip legit.